Hello, friends. This is Alex and Matei, and we welcome you to another episode of DAOnauts Journey into Web3. Last week, we had a special episode because Razvan, our colleague, stood in my place while I was away, and he did an amazing job. So, thank you, Razvan, and make sure to check that video out. It was an absolute blast. Today, we are going to discuss a special subject because it's about DeSoc or decentralized society, something that we are going to hear a lot about in the near future. It seems we are heading towards the decentralization of everything and tokenizing, and maybe we are going to see the tokenization of the individual. So, are you ready to live in the metaverse, Matei? How do you see this movement? I'm getting some cyberpunk vibes here.
I am too. I don't think I'm completely ready to fully transition in living in the metaverse 24/7, as some studios or projects claim we will, but that might just be me. And I've been a World of Warcraft player myself, and I know Vitalik is or has been as well. And there, besides battling other players and mobs, you could cook, you could garden, do blacksmithing, and all stuff like that. So was it a good start for people my age and for my generation to adjust for the upcoming more immersive metaverse? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's just a natural step, and we are seeing some progress developing in this area. So let's explore this subject further, starting with a paper that was recently released in which Vitalik, that you mentioned, co-authored, called Decentralized Society: Finding Web3's Soul. Without complicating things, decentralized society is basically a movement that transcends what and how we currently see human interactions in the physical world. It's basically the sum of all the networking, human relations, and value that we generate in the decentralized world, or the complete version of Web3 because we are not having that right now. If you ask me, DeSoc is the social layer of the metaverse, if you will. So, to quote the authors, DeSoc basically proposes augmenting and bridging our sociality across virtual and physical realities, empowering souls and communities to encode rich social and economic relationships. When we talk about DeSoc, we are naturally talking about networks and the most powerful engines of economic growth, but yet the most susceptible to dystopian capture by private actors. So here we are referring to Web2 companies and governments. To explain this using an example, the authors mention the roads. Like in the medieval age, for example, you built a road between two cities, let's say, and that road will increase the prosperity of the agents living in the respective cities because of the accessibility and the value it provides via trade routes. Now, if that road remains free and is only protected by bandits via trusted third party, they say in the case of blockchain, that is cryptography, that road is going to help people prosper, but it can also be taxed, restricted, and manipulated by an external force. I'm seeing this tendency, especially in communist regimes like China, and it feels quite bitter that this technology can also be used to do harm to people. We clearly see the need for an equilibrium here, and it's important to keep things as decentralized as possible. So that is kind of a war that we must win. Now, in this explanation, souls are also mentioned, and this is an interesting subject because they are actually referring to digital wallets. In their view, the wallets are the vessels for our identity in Web3, and this actually makes a lot of sense because this is where we are going to store our credentials, avatars, our past, present, and future work. So I'm pretty confident to say we are talking about the tokenization of the individual here, a subject that people are debating over because some consider it ethical, others do not. What do you think about this?
First and foremost, I'm big into on-chain credentials, and simply the idea of a CV that's publicly verifiable and that you can easily send to, I don't know, job postings excites me, because there are no more buzzwords in a Europass format CV sent to hundreds of companies and manually picked by HR, or not necessarily manually. But as you said, as of today, we're talking, when mentioning crypto and Web3, we talk about the financialization of everything and tokenization and all that. And this definitely cuts into the human aspect that the society represents. And we are kind of getting there, I would say. I mean, tokenizing ourselves, even though we live in a larger society. And we've talked about networks in previous episodes, and also about cultures in DAOs and some of the hardships encountered in communities. And I'm just wondering about this tokenization of everything. What we're tokenizing today, and in this case, is ourselves, as you said, our lives, maybe achievements, maybe possessions. Do you think it's a bit much? Because I think it's more of a vision than a reality, but this doesn't necessarily mean that it will never happen at massive scale.
Well, I guess it depends on who you ask, because there are obviously people who enjoy virtual reality more than reality, and that's out of personal reasons, I guess. So I wouldn't say it is too much right now, but we might see a future where people forget to live in the actual world, because the metaverse is just new stuff and it's more exciting. And it's probably, I don't know if it's going to be a trend that will remain um, fixed in our culture, or part of humans, or an extension of humans, because we are already using our smartphones and even smartwatches, or I don't know, other devices, even sunglasses I saw, as an extension of ourselves, and a way for, it's like a way for us to interact with reality in some cases, but it will also be a way for people to interact with the metaverse. So you might see people wearing some sunglasses that through their lens can see, I don't know, some creatures like from Pokemon or something like that. So I don't think the limit is our imagination when it comes to this. So I don't know, we are going to see. But now that you mentioned this, in the previous episodes, I think you mentioned SBTs, soul-bound tokens. And why don't you give us an overview about that and maybe explain it as simple as possible?
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. So SBTs, soulbound tokens, are basically NFTs that once transferred from the issuer to the recipient, they're completely non-transferable, almost completely non-transferable, because they're something that's stuck with you basically forever, unless there's the possibility of the issuer revoking it, taking it back, or destroying it, or having a set of guardians, some other people that can basically vouch for you and your wallet, that can change keys.
Right. So are I think we are having a sort of a primitive form of SBTs right now, which I think is POPs, because they are used in a similar manner and have a similar use case. And what do you think is their place? Because I don't think they have a utility right now, because we don't have the infrastructure built yet for SBTs to be used for a lot of things. So what do you think is lacking right now?
I would definitely go for this utility part you mentioned, because today I think the they would be easier to understand for people if they would be under the form as, I don't know, a driving license or their ID or something like that. But I am completely sure that this is just the beginning of SBTs, because you can link a soulbound token, I would say, to basically anything, even a gym membership, even, I don't know, your discount card at your favorite supermarket. And definitely some things that I cannot even fathom right now, because it's so in the beginning of it.
Yeah, Vitalik and the co-authors mentioned some use cases in the paper, so I'm going to dive in a little bit into those as well. So in their vision, SBTs could be used for establishing provenance, and here we are talking about tracing the social origin of an asset, because that is the problem in the real world, because you can fake IDs, you can fake passports, you can fake driving licenses, diplomas, whatever, but you can't really fake stuff on chain in crypto, because you can clearly trace the origin of that NFT or whatever to the authors. So in this regard, there are going to be some SBTs or third party. There are going to be some third parties that can vouch for the authenticity of that SBT if that's the case, because not a lot of people have the information and the ability to look at things on chain, because it can get quite complicated. So this can be like a football club, for example, or let's say if you are a member of a DAO, or you are a fan of a musician or cultural trend or whatever. So the sky is the limit when it comes to that. They can also be they can also be used for unlocking under collateralized lending through reputation. So this is basically your ability to enter DeFi and maybe get a loan without using a collateral, because that SBT shows your credibility, sort of like a credit score. But this is a touchy subject, because you don't want to enter the side of things where accessing a credit becomes difficult, because you have to own an SBT. That's what China is doing or plans to do right now. So we can see this technology can also be used for, like I mentioned, for in negative ways. Next, it can also be used for enabling decentralized key management, and this is important because it removes the risk of Sybil attacks through decentralization. So you can airdrop SBTs to a community and have them vote on things. And I think this is also very difficult to do, and a lot of thought must be put into this. And Vitalik and the authors did this in the paper, because let's say you have a DAO and you airdrop SBTs to a community in order for them to have governance rights in that DAO. What you're doing in that moment is restricting the voting power of the new people who are going to join your DAO. And what what happens if, for example, those people that have the SBTs decide to take things into a bad direction? How would you fix that? It gets quite complicated, and this is a very long time issue, because Socrates, for example, hated democracy, and he considered that not everyone should have the right to vote. What do you think about this?
Again, it's definitely a touchy subject. I do see the need for focused groups in DAOs and in society in general. I think that people who have any kind of professional background in a topic, let's say healthcare, they should be the ones that have more say into what happens with the healthcare system, for example, because they're simply more knowledgeable. I mean, asking, I don't know, someone who repairs cars about healthcare might definitely not give the same output. They don't put so much thought in. They don't have as many inputs, so they can change and think about data. So I definitely do see the need for these types of groups. But I do think that in crypto and in DAOs especially, ultimately the token holders should have the final say. So what I would conclude this with is, let's have some focus groups that do certain things: treasury management, payroll management, contributor rewarding, and they should give the direction towards token holders. They should analyze a proposal or an idea then tell people why they think they should or shouldn't vote on it. But ultimately, the token holders should be the ones to vote.
Mhm. That sounds quite hierarchical, if you ask me, but there is no right or wrong mod. I mean, there are wrong models, but we don't have the right path set in place right now. So that is a good start for this experiment that we call DAOs. Next, I think another use case that they mentioned is compensating for coordinating strategic behavior. And we mentioned tokens and stuff, but you can also airdrop SBTs. And the way you do this, you can, for example, this is just one of many examples in which you can do this. Let's say you can, instead of airdropping a token, you can airdrop, or a coin or whatever, you can airdrop an SBT. And if people hold onto that, it can eventually also lead to uh, vesting of some tokens. If you want to apply some financial incentives for that, or you can do the opposite. You can airdrop some tokens to your community, and then those tokens can basically turn into an SBT or offer the right to an SBT. This is a way to get access to further governance rights, let's say. All of this will create in the future novel markets with decomposable shared rights and permissions. How long do you think it will take until we see all of this in action, Matej?
I think it will take us a while. I mean, we always preach how DAOs and Web3 are just in the beginning of things, but I, I mean, actually, SBTs are literally just begun. So, nevertheless, the past years we've had in DAO history and the hack and all that, SBTs just started, and I think they're going to be a hard pill to swallow for people, because they come with smart contract risks. They come with the possibility of losing your digital wallet, your seed phrase, or any other type of mechanism. Even if it's custodial, then the exchange might get hacked, or the service you employed or you pay might be hacked, and you might lose basically all of the achievements of your life. And so yeah, that's kind of hard. So because of this, I would go back to what I previously said, and I would for people to get accustomed to this, I would start SBTs as their driving license, their gym membership, their diplomas, because they're easy to understand. They're, just the same way NFTs are easy to understand for people who just jumped in and you present them profile pictures, 10K profile pictures, and they're very simple to understand, and yeah, I would go with these type of things, because it means putting a part of ourselves, of our personality, of our past achievements on the blockchain. And people aren't, some of them are having trouble with internet banking, and blockchain will definitely prove to be harder than that for some.
Yeah, absolutely true. And in that case, in the paper, they also mentioned this situation where you are going to lose access to your SBTs. And they found some workarounds around that, or at least in theory, but it is not actually aligned with the idea of personal responsibility and you as an individual being ready to assume that if you are doing something wrong, you are going to lose your tokens or whatever. So I think we pretty much covered this subject, and we encourage you to read the whole paper that they wrote. It's very interesting, and it offers a more detailed perspective than we did here, because we do not like to complicate things a lot. So thank you guys for watching, and we are hoping we hope that you liked it, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.